Welcome to Tired Mommy Revival. Hey mama, are you running on coffee fumes? Feeling like brain fog, fatigue, and anxiety are running the show? Do you wake up dreading the day ahead, already overwhelmed by the endless to-do list and unsure how you'll make it through? Do you long for the energy to enjoy motherhood and care for yourself, but feel stuck and unsure where to start? Let me remind you of something life-changing. You were created for more energy, more clarity, more joy. Hi, I'm Jerusha, certified holistic wellness coach, wife and mom to 2 wild boys and 1 baby girl in heaven. I know the exhaustion you're feeling because I've been there, barely making it through the day, relying on coffee and chocolate to survive, and wondering why nothing I tried ever made me feel better. Then, God stepped in and revealed a powerful truth. A woman's body is beautifully and uniquely designed to thrive. When we align with how God created us, we can boost our energy, bust through fatigue, and step into the vibrant, joy-filled life He has for us. Mama, I'm living proof that it's possible. These days, I wake up refreshed, nourish my body with intention, and navigate the chaos of motherhood with patience and peace. Most days. And I want to help you do the same. If you're ready to swap exhaustion for energy, brain fog for clarity, and guilt for grace, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into practical strategies, faith-filled truths, and empowering tools to renew your health, body, soul, and spirit. Are you ready for this? Let's do it, mama. Okay, confession time. I almost didn't record this episode. Honestly, I thought surely I've stretched this veggie series long enough, right? I originally mapped out 5 episodes and then, surprise, tacked on 3 bonus ones, and I thought, there's no way I can squeeze in one more. But then I started thinking about how far our family has come in this journey, and I realized what's normal for us now isn't normal for most families yet. And I didn't want to leave you hanging without sharing this part of the puzzle because it's such a big deal for real life. So here we are, bonus episode number 4. And even though this one isn't technically about veggies, it's about something just as important. Because here's the truth. While veggies might feel like a battle in your house, your kids aren't fighting their favorite carbs, right? If your kids could live on mac and cheese, pasta, white rice, and bread forever, or if they scarf down their rolls and leave everything else on their plate, you're not alone. Carbs are the kid comfort food of choice. And honestly, as moms, sometimes they're ours too. They're quick, they're cheap, they're filling, and they're guaranteed kid approved. The problem isn't the carbs themselves, it's the kind of carbs. Too many refined, empty carbs equal energy crashes, cranky moods, and less nutrition for growing bodies. So today, I want to give you some realistic, family-friendly swaps that let you keep the comfort, but actually fuel your family better. Let's start here. Carbs are not bad. In fact, they're essential fuel. The problem is not carbs. The problem is the refined, stripped, nutrient-empty carbs that dominate most grocery shelves. And here's something I had to learn the hard way. As women, our bodies process carbs differently than our husbands and our kids. There are times in our monthly hormone cycles when eating lower carb can be incredibly beneficial, steadying our blood sugar, helping our energy, even balancing hormones. And then there are other phases where our body actually need more healthy carbs to function well. But here's the kicker. When I first started my health journey, I thought healthy is healthy. If reducing carbs works for me, then my whole family should eat this way too. Wrong. My husband works construction. He burns calories like nobody's business all day long. My boys were growing like weeds and needed fuel for those busy, active bodies. And suddenly, here I was trying to feed them like I was feeding myself, and it just wasn't working. Meat and veggies weren't filling enough for them, and it was definitely not budget friendly either. So here's the big mindset shift. Healthy for you might look different than healthy for them. That doesn't mean that you ditch the carbs, it means you choose better ones. And if your health as a woman has you scratching your head right now and you're thinking, wait, what are you saying right now? And you want to ditch the world's way of managing your health and instead get really clear on what it means to be healthy the way God designed your body, this is exactly what I teach in my Live Healthy Mama course. In there, I walk women through how to eat, move, fast, and build rhythms that support your unique God-given design for health. You can sign up for a free 1-hour consultation today or get more details on my website. The link is in the show notes. But for our families, let's take the pressure off of them to cut carbs and instead focus on which carbs will fuel them best. Okay, let's talk about pasta because this one is huge for kids. Two big things matter here: non-GMO and quality. GMO stands for genetically modified organism, and most U.S. wheat is genetically modified to resist heavy pesticide spraying. That combo, altered grain plus chemical load, is terrible for our health. So look for the non-GMO verified label or grab pasta that says made in Italy. Fun fact, Italy bans GMO in their food, so you're safe there. Second, quality matters. If you've ever tried whole grain pasta and thought, ew, this is mushy, chewy, or just gross, it might not be the grain's fault. Cheap pasta is cheap pasta. Look for higher quality brands, often lighter in color, more closer to like an off-white than a bright yellow. It really does make a huge difference. And of course, if you can find organic pasta, that would be an incredible option too. Here are some swap ideas. Whole grain pasta gives you more fiber and protein, but still feels like pasta. But also, lentil and chickpea pasta are some of my favorites. My kids love the Bonza brand, which is made from chickpeas. It's full of protein and fiber and honestly tastes amazing. You can usually find it at Walmart or most grocery stores. And quick note, not all brands are equal. If you try one and it's terrible, don't write off the whole idea of a pasta alternative. Just try a different brand. Spiralized veggies are also a good option, like zucchini noodles or spaghetti squash can work too. But pro tip, don't go 100% veggie noodles unless your kids are super adventurous. Instead, do a half and half blend with regular pasta, or better yet, skip the veggie noodles altogether and all the work that goes with it and just load up your sauce with hidden veggies. I have a great recipe pinned on my family-friendly meals Pinterest board where the sauce alone has 5 different veggies blended in. Kids never know, and everyone wins. Next up is rice. White rice is everywhere, but here's the deal. White rice is basically the stripped down version of rice. Why would we want to eat only half of what God created to be a whole food? The bran and germ get removed where the nutrients and the fiber live, which is literally the most important part of the food that you want for your health. But then companies try to enrich it by adding in fake vitamins. Brown rice, on the other hand, keeps the good stuff, the fiber, the minerals, and it releases energy more slowly so your kids don't spike and crash. But don't just stop at brown rice. There are so many types of rice. First of all, there's short grain and long grain, which both have different textures and tastes. And there's also better quality grains, like for example, jasmine and basmati. If brown rice has felt unappealing in the past because it was too chewy, try a different kind. Our family loves brown basmati rice. It's fluffy, flavorful, and way less chewy than other types of brown rice. We buy it in bulk for the greatest savings, but if you can't find it in your local grocery store, it's also available on Amazon or my favorite online health food store, Thrive Market. Also, besides brown rice, there's actually a huge variety of whole grain rice options out there in the world that you may have never even heard of and are awaiting your culinary experience. Red rice is nutty and packed with antioxidants. Black rice, sometimes called forbidden rice because it was saved for royalty in China, has a gorgeous color and even more antioxidant power. And then there's also wild rice, which is earthy and hearty, and it pairs so well with soups or chicken dishes. And then there's also some rice alternatives like quinoa is a great option. It's technically a seed, but it cooks really quickly and has a higher protein content than rice. And for stealth nutrition, cauliflower rice can be blended into your regular rice. Do like half and half, and most kids won't notice a thing. Plus, you're packing those veggies into the rice at the same time. Before we move on, let me pause here to give you a quick tip on cooking whole grain rice. Because if you're used to making white rice, this will change your expectations. White rice usually cooks in about 20 minutes, but brown rice, double that. Remember this little phrase: half the nutrients, half the cooking time. Whole grains just take longer, and that's okay. Yes, 40 minutes can feel like a lot, but it's so easy to just start it on the stove while you're prepping the rest of dinner. It's basically a set it and forget it food. So here's the basic method. In general, you're going to need about 2 cups of water to every cup of rice. You'll want to add about a tablespoon of oil and some salt. From there, you can get creative. You can add some pepper, extra seasonings, onion and garlic, or swap the water for chicken broth. I even make my Mexican rice this way using tomato sauce, chicken broth, onion, and garlic, and it turns out amazing every time. The key is to bring the water or broth to a simmer, then cover the pan, turn down the heat to low, and let it do its thing. Don't stir the rice once you've covered it. That will create sticky and sometimes mushy rice. To check if the rice is done, place your spoon in the middle of the pan, pull back the rice in one spot, and see if the water is evaporated from the middle. If so, your rice is done. If not, cover the pot and let it continue cooking. This will give you nice, fluffy rice every single time. Sure, you can buy the little packets of pre-cooked rice at the store, but cooking your own gives you way more variety, way more flavor, and it costs just a fraction of the price. Okay, now for one of my favorite topics, beans and lentils. Yes, technically they're carbs, but they're also protein, fiber, and full of nutrients. And best of all, they're cheap. You can feed a family on beans and lentils without breaking the budget. Now, if your husband is anything like mine, this might be a harder sell. We live in a very meat-forward culture, but plant-powered proteins like legumes not only give your body a break from the toxic load of conventional meats, they also provide complete protein when paired with rice. So even though your family might believe that they're not getting enough protein because there's not meat in the meal, that is actually all in your head. You can absolutely get a full protein from plant-based foods, and they can be absolutely delicious as well. Whether they are replacing meat or just being added into the meal, beans and lentils are excellent options, and some of our family favorites include things like lentil tacos, Moroccan sweet potato lentil soup, Indian-inspired dal, which is like a creamy lentil stew, red lentils blended into soups or sauces for thickness and some added protein, beans in burritos, chili, or white bean soup, and tomato basil beans, which are the ultimate Italian comfort food. And don't forget, beans can be implemented in things like hummus or a bean dip, and you can add some veggies in there too, and it's always a hit. Now, I know for some of you, beans and lentils can feel intimidating to make from scratch. But here's the truth, they're actually so easy. I grew up in a home where we made our own refried beans, and I didn't even realize they came in a can until I was 18 years old. That's how normal it was for us. And honestly, cooking beans from scratch is not only healthier and more affordable, it's way simpler than most people think. The absolute easiest way to cook beans is in the crock pot. It's completely hands off. You don't have to stand by the stove and remember to stir it or worry about if you forgot them and left them there to burn. Beans are another one of those set it and forget it foods. So here's how I do it. Start with dried beans and sort through them. Look for anything that doesn't belong. Maybe it's an ugly bean here or there, or sometimes you can even find tiny little rocks that occasionally sneak in during packaging. It's not common, but it does happen. Then rinse your beans in a colander. Next, place them in the crock pot and cover them with a couple inches of water. Turn your crock pot to low and cook until tender. That's it. Now, here's the big secret. If you taste your beans and you think, oh no, they're so gross, I messed it up, I did something wrong. The truth is, all they need is some salt. Beans need a lot of salt. So add salt until they taste amazing. It's that simple. You really can't mess it up. Now, the big difference in cooking beans really comes down to the cooking time. So, pinto beans, for example, can cook a lot longer before they get mushy. When I cook pinto beans for refried beans, I cook them on low for about 20 hours. So if I know that I'm going to make beans and rice for dinner the next day, then the night before, I will start the beans in the crock pot and let them go all night and all the next day until it's time for dinner. By then, they're cooked really well. So I have a lot of leeway as far as when I start mashing them up. They're going to be good within a few hour time frame, and it's not going to matter much. Now, the pinto beans are not mushy at this point, but I am going to mash them, and they are very soft and tender. And so pinto beans are amazing because they just have so much resiliency when it comes to cooking time. And cooking them for a long time also gives them that rich, deep flavor that is just really beautiful with mashed beans. But it's also great for soup too. Now, if I'm cooking black beans or white beans, like some of our favorite white beans are Great Northern beans, those are going to cook much faster, usually closer to like 6 or 8 hours on low. So if I'm planning those for dinner, I'll start them in the morning and make sure that they're ready by the time I'm going to be making dinner. Now, as an added benefit, you can soak beans overnight in cold water in a bowl and then drain that water and put them in the crock pot in the morning. It helps reduce some of the anti-nutrients that can be found in certain plant-based foods, and it helps make it a little easier on your digestive system. But listen, if planning that far ahead feels overwhelming, don't stress. Just rinse, cook, and you'll be fine, I promise. Now, that is the basis of cooking beans in the crock pot, but you can also incorporate a few other things in there as well to add a ton of flavor. For Mexican style beans, I'll toss in a whole jalapeno while they cook. So it gives it a little bit extra flavor, that kick of flavor without adding a lot of heat. And then I just take the whole jalapeno out before I either serve them or mash them. For black beans, in addition to the jalapeno, I love adding garlic and chicken broth, and it makes not just the beans flavorful, but the water that turns into more of like a soup. It makes it so flavorful and delicious, and you can add like some chopped cilantro and onions and maybe a little cheese on top, and it's just beautiful. You can never get that from a can of beans, you guys. Yes, I keep canned beans in my pantry sometimes as kind of like an emergency stash if I'm making something last minute, but we hardly ever use them because dry beans are so easy to store and have on hand, and they're so easy to cook with just a little bit of planning. The options are endless. You can make all kinds of things like chilies, taco soup, white bean soup, pasta fagioli, And here's the tip, you can even substitute beans for pasta in some recipes as a healthier carb that's also higher in protein. So if you're trying to cut back on your pasta, or maybe you're even gluten-free, you can actually take like chicken noodle soup, and instead of putting noodles in there, just put some white beans in there instead. Now, let's not forget about lentils. If beans take a long time, lentils are actually the opposite. They're one of the quickest, easiest foods you can make. Lentils cook in about 20 minutes on the stove. Just add them to a pot with enough liquid to cover a couple inches above the lentils, bring the pot to a boil, then reduce the heat to a simmer and cover. Check for tenderness, and when they're done, you can drain any extra liquid if you've got too much. So simple, you guys. Like beans, lentils can be as simple as water and salt. But if you want to bump up the flavor, use broth instead of water, add some onion, garlic, or spices, and let the lentils soak in it all while they cook, and they will absorb all of that beautiful flavor. Now, if you've got the discipline to plan ahead, soaking lentils overnight also helps with digestion, but it's totally optional. One of my kids' favorite ways to eat lentils is in tacos. I'll cook them up with beef broth and a packet of taco seasoning, and they come out so flavorful you'd never guess they weren't meat. My boys devour them. And of course, lentils are amazing also tossed into soups and stews. They'll simmer right along with everything else and add creaminess, protein, and depth of flavor without much effort at all. Also, if you have only ever had one type of lentil soup and you didn't like it, don't settle. There are like a million recipes on Pinterest with lentil soup that have all kinds of flavor combinations, and you absolutely don't have to settle for the one and done plain lentil soup that you probably grew up with. There's so much flavor, so many options. So go look on Pinterest, search lentil soup, and you will see all kinds of different options pop up. Okay, let's move on to bread and wraps. Now, processed wheat and bleached flours make its way into so many products. And unfortunately, it's very discouraging to realize that our bread is absolutely nothing like what God designed it to be. In fact, if you have ever read your Bible and you think, Jesus ate bread and I want to eat bread, why is bread so terrible in our society today? That's because if you were to show an Israelite from Jesus's time our bread today, they would be like, what kind of space food is that? Like, they wouldn't even recognize what we call bread today. That's because everything is so stripped down of its nutrients, fortified with fake vitamins, and even bleached a lot of times. So the thing to really focus on is if you can eat whole grain bread, tortillas, rolls, whatever you can find, definitely go for that option. Now, sprouted whole grain bread would be the best option. Ezekiel is a common brand, but there are a lot of options now. And this would honestly be probably the closest we could come to finding bread that was common in Jesus's time. The problem is that sometimes it can be hard to find, and even if you can, it's also very expensive. You'll usually find it in the refrigerated section or even the frozen section of a grocery store because it doesn't have a lot of added ingredients and preservatives in it. Sourdough is another fantastic choice, and honestly, probably the best kind of bread to eat because it's fermented and it's easier on digestion and higher in nutrients. Whole wheat sourdough is the gold standard, but again, it can be hard to find. If you can't get that, go with sprouted or whole grain bread as your next option. Now, I'll be real with you. Good quality bread is hard to find these days, and prices have skyrocketed. The best option, though, making your own whole wheat sourdough. I'm just now beginning my own sourdough journey after years and years of putting it off. And that's okay because I've been working on a lot of other things to build our health in the meantime. It's a process and I'm still learning, but I know it will be worth it. Do what you can in this season and don't beat yourself up about having the perfect bread. Just go to the store and find an option that's better than what you're eating now. For tortillas and wraps, try to go with whole grain or sprouted grain when you can. And for fun, lettuce wraps are a crunchy option for adventurous kids too. Mamas, your kids won't magically fall in love with lentils tomorrow or even brown rice, and that's okay. Every small swap you make is building their taste buds and shaping their long-term health. Celebrate the little wins. One healthy swap at a time, you are creating a new normal in your home, a culture that nourishes energy, joy, and legacy wellness. So here's my challenge. This week, try just one swap. Maybe it's pasta night with chickpea pasta. Maybe it's swapping white rice for brown basmati. Or maybe it's making tacos with lentils instead of ground beef. See how your family responds. You might just be surprised. And if you're looking for inspiration, I've got you covered. Head over to my Pinterest boards for recipes and ideas. I have family-friendly meals, healing soups and stews, crock pot meals, and healthier carbs. So you got this, Mama. I'm cheering you on every bite of the way. Mama, I hope this episode blessed you and reminded you that you were beautifully and uniquely made to thrive. If today's conversation spoke to your heart, I'd love for you to take a moment to leave a rating and review. Not only does it encourage me, but it helps more tired mamas discover the hope, healing, and energy they've been searching for. You're not in this alone. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Together, we'll reclaim your energy, renew your health, and revive your spirit, one step at a time. Until next time, remember, you are beautifully designed by God to live with energy, clarity, and joy. You're not just surviving, Mama. You're stepping into the vibrant life you were created for. I'm cheering you on.